Lesson 103. We've got a couple of things we're going to talk about today. One of those would be powers of negative numbers, and the second part of the lesson will be dividing terms. So let's start by talking about powers of negative numbers. So we're going to talk about how I can find the answer if I have powers, so squared, cubed, to the fourth power, to the fifth power, but I have negative numbers that I'm dealing with. Okay. So the first thing that I can do to solve these problems is I could multiply the factors in order from left to right, keeping track of the signs with each step. Okay, that's the way we would normally approach a problem like this. But there is a second way that I can do these problems. I can count the number of negative factors first. If there is an even number of negative factors, I'm going to know that the product is going to be positive, and then I don't have to worry about signs. So an even number of negative factors, the product is going to be positive. If there is an odd number of negative factors, the product is going to be negative. So will this give me an answer? No. Will it give me the sign of my answer? Yes. And then I can just do the multiplication to figure out the actual answer. So let's look at some examples to see where we're going with this. Okay, so here I have 3 times 4 times negative 5 times negative 2 times negative 3. The first way I talked about, we can just start and just do 3 times 4. They're both positive, so that's a positive 12. And then I have times negative 5 times negative 2 times negative 3. So 12 times negative 5 would be negative 60. And then I have times negative 2 times negative 3. Negative 60 times negative 2 would be positive 120. And then I have times negative 3. So positive 120 times negative 3 would be negative 360. And that is the correct answer. Okay, but there's another way that I can approach this. I can look at my signs. Now I'm only looking at the negative signs because the positive signs don't change anything. So a negative, a negative, a negative. I have 1, 2, 3 negative numbers. So if there is an odd number of negative factors, the product is going to be negative. So I know that I have a negative answer. Then I don't have to worry about signs. I can just multiply them and make sure I have a negative in front of my answer. Let's look at another example. I have negative 2 to the fourth power. So that literally means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. I have 4 of them. So I'm going to use our second method here, and I'm going to see how many negative factors I have. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have an even number of negative factors, so my product is going to be positive. So I know my answer, the sign is going to be positive. Then I don't even have to worry about the signs. I can just take 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. I know my answer is positive. So there we are, positive 16. And that is the correct answer down here. All right, negative 2 to the fifth power. So that means I have negative 2 and I'm multiplying it 5 times. Well, that just told me I have 5 negative factors. So that is an odd number of negative factors. Therefore, my product is going to be negative. So I already know my answer is going to have a negative sign in front of it. Now I need to take 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So negative 32 is my answer. Let's check down here. Negative 32 is the correct answer. All right, the second part of your set, and this is pretty cool, is dividing terms. Okay, so it's going to be about simplifying an expression like this. So I have 12x cubed y z squared over 3x squared y. So how am I going to get this in its simplest form? Okay, well, I have 12 x cubed. That means x times x times x. I have y, and I have z squared, which means z times z, over 3x squared, xx, and a y. Now I can do some canceling. So my 12 and my 3, that'll become a 4 and a 1. Okay, I see I have an x on top and an x on bottom. They can cancel. I have an x on top and an x on bottom. They can cancel. I have a y on top and a y on bottom. They can cancel. So now it's looking at what do I have left. So I like to look at the bottom. This is pretty easy. I have 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. So on the bottom I have 1. So I don't even have to worry about writing anything on the bottom. What do I have left on top? I have a 4, and I have an x, and I have a z and a z, and that equals 4xz squared. So going back to the original problem, I have 12x cubed y z squared, and I actually divided that by 3x squared y, and I got 4xz squared. All right, have a great time with lesson 103.